Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to tune a basic MR256 duplexer using a vector network analyzer. It'll include things like the insertion loss, isolation, separation, as well as the return loss. Right now we're just setting up the ports and getting the duplexer ready to go into a tuned state. We're tuning this on the low port to 152.48 and on the high port to 157.74. Take a look at the yellow trace, that's our return loss, and the purple trace is our transmission gain. Keeping your eyes on marker number 2 on the purple trace. You know, keep your eye on the purple curve and watch as those three cavities come together as one. Ever slow, slightly touch that in. You can see the yellow curve starting to take shape. What's happening there is that's your return loss, and that's kind of in conjunction with marker number 1. If you'll take a look and see how it's starting to take shape, and that's going to be where our just thinking about this more. Now watch as the curves move from the left to the right and they all become one. Okay. Just keep your eye on the purple curve, marker number 2, and watch it as it comes down lower. Now we're moving the last of the power curve over. Right now we're down to neg 80, and just to make this a little clearer, I'll just put it on there. You can take a look at the actual power there on marker number 2 now, and it's got the readout there of neg 80. We're going to bring that down to around neg 100. We're paying close attention to how the isolation curve is forming right now. Keeping our eye also up on marker number 1. That's our insertion loss. That's where the band pass for the high port is going to pass through there, and we want to reduce the amount of resistance, so to speak. That's your insertion loss. Now we're hitting better than neg 100 on marker 2. That's our isolation. And if we take a look at our insertion loss at the top, we have 3 dB of insertion loss right now on 152.48. You can see that in the upper right corner where the marker numbers are. Just keep our eye on the return loss curve as well, that yellow curve. We can get our isolation a little bit better than what we have it there, I think. But neg 100's nothing to disappoint over. Our insertion loss isn't great as of yet at neg 3 dB. However, that can be fixed fairly easily. And we're going to fix that when we go to switch sides and we switch over to the high pass side. So here's what we're looking at. We're looking at our insertion loss, our return loss, and our total overall isolation. Return loss, insertion loss, isolation. Now we can make these numbers a lot better once we start tuning the opposite side of the duplexer. So we're going to switch sides now. We're going to move our transmission source to the high port and going to move the terminator from the high port over to the low port. Just wait for these curves to settle. So we're on the high port and we need to reject 152.48. So our bandpass is currently 157.74 and we're going to reject 152.48. We'll put our marker over on marker 1 and you can play along as we get this tuned in. I'm starting with the cavity on the furthest outside. And you're keeping your eye on marker 1 on both the isolation curve as well as your return loss curve. Actually, you're watching the marker 2 on the return loss curve, and you're watching marker 1 on the isolation curve, on the purple curve. And I'm tuning out, so I'm turning the screws out to get the frequency to come higher here. Okay, that's not too bad. We're down to -70 so far, and we still have one more power curve to go. Here comes the next power curve. Looking at the screen on your left side there, you'll see another power curve coming in here. And our isolation is getting greater. Also take a look at the return loss there on the yellow curve on marker number 2. You'll see the return loss is getting better and better. We're down to nearly 10 dB of return loss, and our isolation is nearing 85 dB now. Okay, that's getting close. I'm a little off frequency. I'm going to move the key to the outermost. There we are. We're just peaking that right now at -90. We have 23.23 dB of return loss, and we have a really good number. We have 2.3 dB of insertion loss. So we have a near perfect trace here now. We have neg 181, neg 1.81 rather, for our insertion loss. We have 93.8 for our isolation. Not bad. And our return loss is 18 dB. Okay, we're going to go back to the low side port now. We're at neg 84 for isolation. We're at 1.8 7.3 for insertion loss. And our return loss is 17.7 dB, which is not too bad. Yeah, if you take a look at marker 2 down there, down here in the isolation path, you'll see that we're just a little bit high on frequency, and we're going to pull that down just a little tiny weeny teeny bit. Notice how the trace is kind of jumping around a bit. It's because I have my average turned off right now. Okay, I'm really gonna give it to her here. You can see my isolation is coming down well over -90, but take a look at what's happening with the return loss at the very same time. We have massive return loss, but take a look at the insertion loss, and this is what I want to show you. This is the most important part of the trace right here, right now. If you take a look at marker 1 up on the purple line, you'll see that we have less than 1 dB of insertion loss, which would also equate, by the way, to the fact that we have a tremendous amount of return loss because the two are interconnected. So we're looking around 90 dB of isolation, 30 dB of return loss, and less than 1 dB of insertion loss. We're right at 1 dB of insertion loss. You really can't argue with that. Okay, that's looking pretty stable. I'm going to turn my average on here on the isolation curve. We can get a fairly good number of 90 dB of isolation. So we're swapping the transmission line back over to the high port. We're going to take another look at that. And you'll see that there's some differences in the high port. We still have excellent return loss of 23 dB of return loss. Our isolation is less than 1 dB. Our insertion loss, rather, is less than 1 dB. And our isolation is over 80 dB. Let's try to improve our isolation. Remember when we were on the low port, the isolation or the return loss was in excess of 25 dB, and we've only got 16 dB of return loss on this side. So the two ports aren't entirely equal with respect to our return loss levels. It's not that big a deal. It's not that big a deal at all, but see where I'm making changes to the isolation on our transmission curve, and that we're looking specifically at marker 1. You can see on marker 2 on the return loss that as we get more refined in our measurements, the return loss, see, we've got 22 dB of return loss now. And we're nearing 90 dB of isolation on marker 1. And we remain at 1 dB of insertion loss on marker 2 on the purple marker on 157.74. Up in the upper right hand side, you'll see what the insertion loss is. Just trying to get this perfect. Right now I'm tuning the center log, looking at our isolation, marker 1, and we're exceeding neg 90 dB now. And just to show you that, we'll go over to this marker and you can take a look at that on the screen. So we're coming up to neg 90 dB. And we just hit neg 90. So all in all, we have neg 90 isolation on both ports, better than neg 90, equaling 180 dB of isolation grand total. So measuring our high port, we're rejecting our low port, and our rejection is neg 91 dB. Our insertion loss coming up here to marker number 2 is 0.65 dB of insertion loss. That's our insertion loss. So this is where the actual signal passes through. And our return loss is neg 30 dB, which is about 1.2 to 1 SWR. So this is where the signal passes through. This is where the transmitter is transmitting through. And this is rejecting the signal from the receiver. And we'll do the same on the low pass side. Okay, and again looking at it on the low pass side. On marker 2 here we have neg 90 dB. Here, I'll just bring it up on the screen here and select our marker. We have neg 92 dB of isolation. This is where the receiver path is, up and down here on marker 1. And if we take a look at that, we have 0.35 dB right here, 0.35 dB of insertion loss, and we have 24.5 dB of return loss, which is about a 1.2 to 1 SWR, and you don't get better than that. So that is how you tune a duplexer on a VNA. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and if you found this helpful, please like and subscribe. And I appreciate your viewership. Thank you.